my friends, come on back down, come on back in. Hope that you're doing well. Let's go ahead and start off side for the final side of the Beatles, the White Album. I don't know why I'm yelling. I'll tell you why, because there's no one here. When there's no one here, when my wife's not here, I'm a little bit louder. When my wife's here, I try to keep the level, like the decibels, kind of right down here. But when she's not here, it doesn't matter. Anyways, it's just me and the cat. We're going to listen to Revolution number 1. I see later there's a Revolution number 9. I don't know how we got from 1 to 9, but we're going to start off here at the beginning. We'll talk about it after. Let's dive on in. Here we go.
I take 2. Okay.
And now this thing's just floating. I like how this has a little power behind a little charge, but also just floats. And they're shooting whopping. They're shooting whopping.
We don't love to change our
Now what's that sound? This is great. This is such a good album. Revolution 1. I almost said number 1, but there is no number there. It's just 1. Oh, what a cornucopia of music here. All right, so I love how the band starts off like, you know, getting in step, setting up everything like, okay, 1, 2, take 1, whatever, like getting everything ready, and then they start to bust out, right? But it's just like a little calm guitar, you know, you hear some shuffling of some sorts, and then it starts to break into it. And throughout the whole song, there's those little moments where the music, especially the guitar, like it comes up with like this big distortion for just a moment, and then it immediately backs off, and we're left with that relaxing flow of the guitar. And really the verse here is just like this, you guys know like the lazy river, like if you go to a water park. Listen, I don't know about you, but here in Florida, Miss Wet and Wild, it used to be a big thing here. The rides, yeah, the big attractions, but it's the lazy river. That's where you would find me. Just get me on a float and let me just go down the river. Just let me go down. And here in this track, the verse was like that lazy river. It was just relaxing, flowing, and I love this singing. It's just so peaceful, right? But then, like I said, you would have those moments where the guitar, later on the horns, the trumpets and everything would come in with just a blast to your face. And you're like, oh, that's kind of unexpected. But how quickly that was backed off. How quickly they stepped off the gas a little bit and went right back to the verse. I think that was a really nice dynamic in the track. Then you have the entrance of the shoo-da-doo-wop, the shoo-da-doo-wop. Listen, when you add some doo-wop, you're in my territory. That's a good jam because that's that rhythm that just swings. Shoo-ba-doo-wop. It's classic. It swings, it moves, and everyone can sing that. Everyone can doo-wop if you put a little shoe into it. And then, I mean, you're just getting so many different tricks in their music. You're getting so many different facets. I mean, and all of this is, if you really wanted to boil it all down, this is still pop music. I mean, if you really wanted to boil it down, it's still pop music. But the point is, how did they take that genre and really express themselves, further themselves, not afraid to experiment, to push boundaries? Why not push the boundary a little bit? Is everyone going to get it? Of course not. Does it matter if they get it? Probably not. Do your thing. Push it. Why bother? But I just think that that's really cool how they handled that here in the track. So on the horns, you're going to have Derek Watkins, Freddie Clayton on the trumpets, Don Lang, Rex Morris, Jay Power, and Bill Povey on the trombones. And of course, George Martin handling the actual arrangements of all that. And like I said, everything here sounded quite fantastic. I do see, like I said, I know that there's Revolution number 9 later on in the track listing. So I'm trying to find out like the correlation. There is a Wikipedia article, but it is long. So I'm not going to obviously sit here and dictate all of this to you. But it says here 3 versions of the song were recorded, all during, of course, the sessions for this album. A slow bluesy arrangement, which is what we just heard. An abstract sound collage, which is Revolution number 9, and a hard rock faster version similar to the one we just heard that was released as a B-side to Hey Jude. Okay. Although the single version was issued first, it was recorded several weeks after Revolution 1 as a remix specifically intended for release as a single. Let's go ahead and dive into the lyrics first before we get into the meanings that I see here on the Wikipedia page. You say you want a revolution. Well, you know, we all want to change the world. You tell me it's evolution. Well, you know, we all want to change the world. But when you talk about destruction, don't you know that you can count me out? Okay, well, I think the lyrics are pretty straightforward in this. Everyone wants to change things. Everyone wants to make change in the world and, you know, make some sort of effect in the world. And he would like that too. He's not against that. But when he says, but when you talk about destruction, when it becomes something of violence or revolution, you know, when that revolution becomes something violent, he wants out. He wants no part of that. He's okay with the change. He wants change too, but he wants to do that through peace and not through violence. You say you got a real solution. Well, you know, we'd all love to see the plan. You ask me for a contribution. Well, you know, we're doing all we can. So it's not only just the method of affecting change, but I guess diving further into that actually, because, you know, okay, you say you have a plan. Let's see it. So there's a little bit of a dishonesty, a distrust. And then he says, you ask me for a contribution. You ask me for money and financial help. Well, we're doing all we can. You know, we're doing all we can. So I really like how the lyrics are maybe not as flowery and poetic as we've had previously in here, and maybe not as abstract in some ways, but I do like how it's straight to the point, and I think it does hit that point really well. But if you want money for people with minds that hate, well, all I can tell you is, brother, you have to wait. Don't you know it's going to be all right? Don't you know it's going to be all right? You say you'll change the Constitution? Well, you know we'd all love to change your head. You tell me it's the institution? You know you better free your mind instead. Listen, instead of thinking about the head of country, state, and etc. and power, change your head first. Change your... that. Instead of looking external for change, first, begin internal. All right. Don't you know it's going to be all right? Let's look into some of the facts about this particular track here. It says that this was released in 1968, reflected the social movements and civil unrest of the 60s. The theme is that true revolution is not based on hatred and destruction, of course. It begins with a change inside yourself, away from violence and towards peace. It says here that the song peaked at number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100, which is actually really cool, in the US and topped the singles charts in Australia and New Zealand. And there's a ton more information, like I said, about this, like a ton more information. It says during overdubs, which brought the recording to take 20. So this is apparently take 20 of it. Lennon took the unusual step of performing his lead vocal while laying on the floor. Okay, however, you got to get it down. He also altered one line into the ambiguous, "You can count me out" in. You know what? I did see that line there, but I just kind of ignored it. I thought it was like maybe an error on the lyric page. But okay, so that is kind of ambiguous, right? Because he says, "Don't you know you can count me out?" But then he says "in." So there's a little bit of a contradiction there. Maybe he's kind of getting at like people that say, no, I don't want part of that. But then maybe in some underhanded, secretive way, it's like, I do want part of that. And you know what I'm just thinking? Talking out loud, it's just you and me. You know how I said like the music is very peaceful, especially in the verse, but then there's those little charges of like violence? You could apply the way the music actually sounds into what he's saying here. Aiming for peace, but he says, count me out in. The music is peaceful, except for those little moments. You know, you could make an argument for it. It says that he later explained that he included both those lines out in because he was undecided in his sentiments. Honestly, that's a very honest take from an artist. He was undecided, so he put both in. He didn't stay stalwart in one. That's not the word. He didn't stay like, what's the word? Overly convinced in one or the other. He was undecided. And you know what? I think that's something that people forget, like in modern times. It's okay to not really know or have a position on something. Like, it's okay to be undecided, you know? And I think that that's a really honest take for him to put in there. That's great. Just remember, you can't do up without a little shoe. Let me know what you guys thought of the track in the comments down below. You can follow me over on Twitter. You can support the channel on Patreon. Thank you so much for being here. You enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you later, guys. Bye.